Dave, hang on a minute.
Go ahead, John.
I just realized I don't have a record button on here, so Channel 18 needs to start the recording.
This conference will now be recorded.
Yes. Okay, I see a record at the top of my computer.
Yeah, we're all set now.
Yeah.
It just disappeared again.
Okay. What are you looking for, Jen?
Robin, do you see the share button for your PowerPoint presentation? If you put your mouse all the way to the bottom of the screen, the mic, camera, screen, and leave button will pop up. Those are the buttons that we'll need. The screen will be the one that I think give you the opportunity to share your screen for the PowerPoint. Cool.
Okay, here we go. Can we have a roll call vote to open the meeting? And we'll start with John.
Hi.
Mary.
Mary Meslowski here.
Kathy.
Kathy Green here.
Robert.
Bob Doan here.
Joseph.
Joe Parlin here.
Donna.
Donna Kalanick, present.
And Dave Nixon, present. Okay. Are there any comments from the general public? Hearing none. Jan, would you read the governor's
Rules. Pursuant, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Harwich Community Preservation Committee on Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Harwich website, www.ma.org. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner: on Channel 18 or by watching the simulcast at http://harwich18dns.org/cablecast/public/live.spx*channel 1 ID = 1. No in-person attendance or members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite our best efforts, we will post on the Town of Harwich's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And okay. Dave?
Yep, thank you. Moving on. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of November 5th and the 12th? Remote.
So moved.
All right.
Mary or Donna?
Mary.
Thank you.
Okay, can I take a roll call vote?
Mr. Chairman, can there be discussion first?
Sure.
I need a second first.
I second it.
Bob,
Okay, thank you.
So I had one issue with the November 5th minutes, which is under the discussion of the Brooks Park lighting project. It's stated, it's a characterization of what Eric was saying, but it is stated that the cost for electricity for the lighting there will be 80 to 90% less than the current lighting, and that is just at least by my reading of the engineering report. In fact, it's going to cost more to run the lights on the new project. And I know that description is describing what was said at the meeting.
Exactly.
It is stated as if it's a fact, and it's not a fact. And I'm just wondering if we could just modify the language a little bit. I'm just afraid that I'm concerned that observation will be publicized as a fact, and it's not. Sorry to complicate things, but I just don't like the way it's reported in the minutes.
I understand, and quite frankly, I'm not an attorney, and the minutes reflect what's been said.
Well, can I request that the sentence that says that begins with, "It was stated that"? Right now, it just says, "It will."
Jen?
Why don't I just strike that part, John?
Oh, that would be even better
Y'all want me, is it okay if I do that?
if the rest of the motion agrees.
Mary?
If it was stated at the meeting, it needs to be reported as it was characterized. If John objects to the truth of it, then we could agree to have him put a note in there that says he objected to the characterization stated above. But I do not think we should just strike the section.
John, would you agree to that?
That's fine with me. It sounds a little more complicated than it needs to be. But, I'm just trying to, it's like the last, or it's toward the end of the second paragraph under the R13 discussion. And my request is to insert the words before the word using this new LED system will provide savings some 80 to 90% in cost per month. I would just request that it say it was stated that using this new LED lighting system will provide savings.
Yeah, but you're changing the context in which the statement was made, John, and quite frankly, I don't think we have the ability to do that. There was a period of time where all the boards were required to start tape recording their meetings because of issues with minutes that didn't represent what was said at the public meeting. So based on my previous knowledge of how things were, I would say that whatever is stated in the minutes, that's in a live recording now, or it's on a recording somewhere because they keep all the recordings. It's got to stay as it is. We can, as Mary said, we can make a notation. You can make a notation yourself to Jan right now. You can ask that request, but
So,
the minutes
okay,
are.
I don't want to belabor the point here. I mean, we could add a note. But the thing is, no one had read the engineering report when all that was done. So saying that was said at the meeting is untrue as well. I'm just trying to temper it. But at this point, Dave, my feeling is we've had this discussion in this meeting in public. That's going to be enough for me right now. We can just approve the minutes. I just wanted to make that point because I think it's rather misleading. Now, my point is part of the public record, and it was back in the second meeting, so we'll leave it at that.
Okay, John, thank you. Joe, you got your hand up? You're all set. Okay, can we take a roll call vote?
David,
Go ahead, Donna.
in the November 12th minutes, his name is spelled incorrectly.
how did I do that?
Well, you didn't do it in the top. It's correct in the call to order, but then under item 3, where it says Chair David Nixon announced Katie Green.
Oh. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Donna. Any other amendments? Okay, let's call for a roll call vote. We'll start with Donna.
Aye. Donna Kalanick, aye.
Joe?
Joe McFarland, aye.
Robert?
Bob Doan, aye.
Kathy?
Kathy Green, I recused myself from the November 5th meeting minutes because I wasn't a member. Aye to the November 12th meeting.
Did you get that, Jan?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Mary?
Mary Maslowski, aye.
John?
John Ketchum, aye.
And David Nixon, aye. Okay, that takes care of that. New business. We're going to go into the, what time is it? Oh, it's a little late, but it's all right. We're going to go into the hydration stations for outdoor recreation facilities project. And is Patrick available?
Hello, everybody. This is Patrick Otten.
Patrick, you have the floor.
Really?
Thank you, and thank you for letting me present and consider this proposal for the water bottle refill hydration station. I'm going to let Dan Pelletier kick it off just to clarify the initial application, and then I'll pick up after him.
Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks for having myself and Patrick tonight. So I just wanted to clarify some points on the application. When the application was initially submitted, it was brought to me in October through Patrick, and I aided him with assembling the information and submitting the application. Once the application was submitted, I was able to speak with Dave as well as Joe Powers, and they informed me that for a project on town land, the application should be from the town of Harwich itself. So I spoke with Joe, and I have submit another application earlier today. I apologize for not getting it in sooner with corrected information. It has Joe listed as the applicant, myself as project manager, and Patrick as the secondary contact. So I just wanted to point that out because I believe there had been some confusion on that. This is certainly my first time going with Harwich CPC, and I believe the same is true for Patrick. So I guess with that, I'll turn it back to Patrick for the backstory.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Patrick.
Yeah, very good. So why this proposal? If you remember, in 2019, the municipal plastic container ban was passed. This year, 2020, the passage of the single-use plastic bottle ban was passed. And the question is asked, where am I going to get my water? That's easily answered. We can say, drink Harwich water. We'll install water bottle hydration refill stations. You're familiar with them. They're used indoors right now in multiple places throughout town. And this application is for outdoor water bottle refill stations. It does fit into the recreation category for CPA funds expended as capital improvements of recreational facilities. It has strong support across town departments and committees. And from there, I'll let Dan fill in the details.
Thanks, Patrick. So there's currently 4 proposed locations for the filling stations. Unfortunately, one of the locations that was in the packet that was submitted was on the rail trail on Headwaters Drive, which is a parcel of land that the town does not physically own. So in the new application that I sent over today, I proposed 2 potential replacements for that 4th location. One being the Hinkley Landside Restoration area near Hinkley's Pond, or in the Harwich area of the rail trail between Town Hall and the Chatham Town line. So jumping into the application, I guess some of the technical details, there was Patrick and I had worked with the vendor to obtain pricing for the individual units. We coordinated with the DPW as far as the plumbing installation and the physical mounting of the structures. The Water Commission has volunteered to donate in kind the installation of the water services to feed these units. So the cost request in the CPC article is really to fund the purchase of the filling stations themselves and the incidental work associated with the installation, the backflow device for the filling station, the plumber to hook it up, and the concrete pad, small concrete pedestal that it would be sitting on. The plan now, or as I discussed with Patrick earlier today, should CPC put the article forward and it be adopted, you know, the water department could start installing the water services for these as soon as town meeting. And when funding becomes available, we could purchase the physical units and then mount them to the pads. So I guess I don't know what other questions or information you guys are looking for. I guess I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. You're muted.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you, Dan. We're going to start with John. John Ketchum.
Okay. My first question is, where is the revised proposal? You said you sent it over. I haven't seen this one.
Went out today at 5:15.
Oh, you
Right.
emailed it? Okay, I guess I missed that.
So I emailed it to y'all.
Yes.
Okay.
Very
and-
difficult.
Could you repeat the bits about the one location that isn't on town-owned property? That's the parking lot on the rail trail on Headwaters?
Yes.
And what are the alternatives?
So I was thinking two alternative locations. I would like to have a location be in Hinckley's Pond, Pleasant Lake area that would provide a relatively even distribution of the stations throughout town. I spoke with Amy Usowski in Conservation, and to do it on the Hinckley's landside restoration would require approval from from Conservation, and we haven't had the opportunity to talk to them yet. My hope is that we could include the filling station in the landside restoration where they're intending to put a bench and a set of stairs down to Hinckley's Pond. So right across from the Pleasant Lake General Store, there's that little former parking area. So that was the fourth location I was hoping. And if for some reason Conservation was not amicable to that, I was thinking another alternative would be along the rail trail that the town owns. We own a component from right around the back of Town Hall to the line. So that could be a second alternative location.
Okay, so thank you for that. My other question is just about the connection to water supply, and some of those places, it appears to me that they must be near some water supply, but somewhere like the Hinckley's Restoration place in particular, I would think. I can't imagine why there would be town water right there. And so and the town is offering to do the hookup, but if there's no supply there and they have to run supply from somewhere or other, is that going to affect the cost?
Yeah, so the four locations that were picked specifically because there was water available in the adjoining area. The location at Hinckley's Pond, we would likely tap the water main right on 124 and shoot it under to that parking lot area.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else.
Alrighty. Let's go to Mary.
Thanks, David. So Dan, just one comment for me is just Brooks Park is in the historic district, so it will also require permitting through the HDHC. So I just wanted to point that out so that you folks are aware.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
All set, Mary.
All set, David.
Let's go to Joseph.
Okay, hey, Dan, I had a couple of quick questions. One is, I did get to read that fairly quickly. It came a little late, but I think I got through most of it. And the vendor that you have listed is Mission Water, is that right?
I believe the company is EALKE. Patrick had more direct communication with them. You may be better served to answer that one.
So it doesn't matter to me who it is. My more specific question is, and I think Donna or Mary can answer this. It's a combines vendor, and you don't have to have 3 bids on this. I mean, that's just the people you're going to go with. Is that it?
So where they're listed on combines in the bid threshold is if it's Mass 30B, it's I'm trying to recall the specific bid requirements. It's a 3-quote solicitation.
Okay.
So we can solicit from any vendors on combines, but combines generally does the procurement in advance, and then we as a town municipality can purchase from that agency.
Okay, and then the last question is on ongoing costs, because I don't know, at least it might have been there, but I didn't see the detail of how these things work from day to day, year to year. Are there ongoing costs? Like you need filters to be replaced or whatever it is?
So I spoke to DPW about maintenance of the units. There was an email in the supplemental packet that was sent out today with Sean Libby verifying that they would be handling the maintenance for those units. They would be draining them like, they're proposed at Red River Beach, right? So that would be drained in the winter with the bathhouse there. Sean did propose, I believe Sean did propose filters. Sean Libby, the facilities director, but that would be again in their wheelhouse of maintenance.
And also in their money and in their budget, so they'll be able to do that on an ongoing basis?
I don't have specifics on. I would have to.
That's fine. All right, I'm good, Dave.
May I interrupt you with one comment? This is Patrick.
Go ahead.
Technically or feasibly, Harwich water is good water. It does not need to be filtered. And, if you're going to start talking filtering, what are you filtering and why? So those are additional questions, but the standard practice is these are not filtered water bottle refill stations. Good water here.
I agree.
Okay, thank you. Donna.
I just want to say that getting a revised application an hour before the meeting, I don't think is acceptable. And that's not a reflection of you, Jan. I was in a meeting prior to this. I did not have time to go through that. And, it's difficult to ask questions about information that you received an hour before your meeting, and particularly in the change of location. I think that somebody should have known that the town of Harwich didn't own the property that you proposed to put it on in the first application. So I do have a couple of questions. Is there going to be a counter on these units so that you will be able to know how much water is being used?
Yes.
I'll start with that one. Yes. Okay.
Apart from the units, we will install a water meter for each of these units. So we'll be reading that remotely as we do on resident meters.
And then who is going to be paying for the water at these locations? Is it going to be the town of Harwich? Who's going to pay for it? Because, some of these locations, you're going to get some really high usage. And I think that that's an important piece of information.
Yeah, I think it was anticipated that they would be funded similarly to things like the garden club and the other various irrigation things that we have throughout town. Those bills generally go to the department. Some go to recreation, some go directly to town hall. These locations, some, would go to DPW. So it would be handled just like all other water accounts.
So DPW will build into their budget the money to pay the water bills for the bubblers.
That would be my understanding, that the town would fund these as they do all the other ones.
So I think it would be good to know, like, just another town or National Seashore, just what the average usage is and what that cost looks like. In terms of the discussion about the filters, I think that town staff is more qualified to make recommendations about filtering or not filtering than a volunteer is. I appreciate Patrick's work, but this really should be a town project. Did you consider putting a dog bowl on any of these? It's pretty short money.
They were proposed initially, and when we worked through the locations and the proposed units with the DPW with respect to installation and draining, tying them into sanitary sewer, it was decided that the best option would be to do just the simple pedestals for the purpose that we wouldn't have to tie it into a sanitary drain or sewer. It could be treated like a regular, foot washing station at the beach. So that was the recommendation of the DPW.
Okay. And I just myself, I wouldn't be able to make a recommendation on this without knowing what the fourth location is actually going to be, and making sure that whatever is necessary to make sure that location is going to work is vetted before we vote on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Kathy?
Well, first, I thought it was a great presentation. I did have a question. It's referred to as a multi-bottle filler. Does that two bottles aren't filled at once? It just refers to the fact that multiple bottles can be filled?
That would be my understanding. Patrick, correct. Yes.
Okay. And then is there a drinking fountain component to this? Or is it just to fill bottles? If there isn't one, where are people going to be trying to help themselves without a bottle?
So
go ahead, Dan.
So similar to Donna's question regarding the dog bowl, we had considered those, and in Harwich previously at one point there was water fountains at Brooks Park. I believe the former health agent had shut them down for sanitary purposes. And with the DPW's recommendation to just stick with the pedestals for plumbing purposes, that was what we ended up going with. I think if there's a desire to install a different unit, then parties would be open to that. But.
Okay. And I think the acknowledgement decal is a nice touch.
Patrick.
Let me just add that Megan Aldridge's department did not recommend that water fountain bubbler be used. She is advocating only for water bottle refill. So.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. Robert?
Yeah, my question was same as Joe about ongoing maintenance. And my only comment on the filter is that chlorine's the only objectionable part of our water, I think, and that's the only reason why I'd like to see a basic filter just for chlorine. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Bob. My comments go back to the maintenance and for example, the recreation department has a significant number of fields that we water. Every one of those is, as you know, because you see our water bills and you see what we pay, every one of those is metered. And I'm curious to how that is actually going to work with the water department paying the bill, or the highway department paying the bill out of highway maintenance. I'd like to see a letter to ensure that we know that that bill's dedicated to someone, because you know that CPC cannot pay for any maintenance.
Mhm.
So that's my first comment. The second comment is, we had 3 in the application. Again, I didn't see the revised application, but we had 3 places on the initial application. Now we're going to 5. Is that what I understand?
My understanding was the first thing, I believe it. My understanding is that both applications had 4 stations.
We have Red River, we have Brooks Park, we have the Chamber of Commerce on 28, and then we had parking trail at Headwaters. So Headwaters has been eliminated.
Correct.
And in its place,
priority would be the Hinckley's Landside Restoration location. If for some reason conservation was not open to installing the unit at that location, a second alternative would be the eastern part of the rail trail.
okay.
Not having spoken with them prior to this meeting, I wanted to make sure that, there was at least 2 town-owned parcels that would be considered.
Okay, that's great. And I'm glad that you got together with Joe and discussed what was what, as far as the project manager was concerned. That was a big deal. I don't have any other than, this is one question that's probably a little bit different. In my previous life, I was a biker, and not motorcycles, riding pedal bikes. And I'm curious about something. We always carried water with us, no matter what. So we always had a good supply of water, no matter how many miles, whether it was from Boston to P-Town or whatever the case was. That does not go on today. People aren't self-sufficient in that mode anymore. And that's why this request is here.
I would argue that the rail trail is used by more than just cyclists. But not being a cyclist, I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
Patrick, would you like to take a swing at it? Okay, Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing is, I know the bicyclists, like at Bruggies, I've seen them come in and ask to have their water bottles refilled because they finished the one they had. So I think that does happen.
Okay, fair enough. I'm, again, curious about how that worked. All right, are there any more questions to Patrick from the board?
No.
Hearing none, Patrick and Dan, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, and again, I apologize for the late delivery of that. Been swamped with water, so.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good one.
And can you just help me out understanding what's next? What do you need? What do Dan and I and Joe need to do to continue the process?
At this point, all we're doing is receiving information. There will be a meeting where we discuss it. And if there's anything in the middle that needs to be discussed, we'll bring you back in.
And Dave, one question, if I may.
Go ahead.
With respect to some of the board's topics tonight, with Mary with the historic district, the average usage in other units, and the letter for compensating or covering the cost, would you like those I assume you would like those as soon as I can get them? Just,
Absolutely. Jen will reach out with that information,
great.
with that request. She'll have it all in the minutes and she'll reach out and she'll be in touch.
All right.
Dave, can we also get further clarification on what, the exact fourth location will be? And that it's been vetted through?
My intent was to bring this to the Conservation Commission and present this location. And then once I had approval from them, I was then going to resubmit that letter of support to this board.
Jen, did you get all that?
Yeah. And you also need the letters of the, whose budget is this going to come out of?
Yep. Yep.
So what Dave said was, I'm going to type up the minutes. I'll give you a quick list of everything so we don't miss anything. In the next few days, I'll send it out to you, you and Dan. I mean, you and Patrick.
All right, awesome.
Donna? You okay? Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming.
Very good, thank you.
All right, moving on. We're going to go to Robin Kelly, and she's going to make a presentation. And we're going to start with the East Harwich Methodist Cemetery and Gravestone Conservation and Preservation Project. There's a mouthful.
All right, I'm going to try to share my PowerPoint presentation. I think it's going to work.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
All right.
Yay.
It worked. So this is the Gravestone Conservation and Preservation Project. It's, if anyone's familiar with this area, it's the East Harwich, near the corner store, the cemetery behind the church. Okay, in this project, we'll be cleaning, consolidating, repairing, resetting of grave markers. There is 65 total repairs that need to be done. There's 45 monuments, 20 footstones that are in need of repair. There's 209 that need to be reset or have new foundations. We'll put in new bases where they are required. So there's 265 memorials cleaned and consolidated, including the headstones and footstones. The slate stones will be consolidated and will not be consolidated, but will be cleaned of all biologicals. And then the total number of monuments that will be touched during this project will be 316. This cemetery is of huge historic significance. It is, the earliest grave is from 1797 of Ebenezer Eldridge, who is a Revolutionary War soldier from our town. And it contains some of the oldest memorials in Harwich. So I have a map of the location of the repairs. When I was copying them originally for the CPC application, none of the yellow color would come out on your copy, so I didn't include it in the original packet, but I have sent that on. I hope everyone has received it. So on the left-hand side is the 45 monuments that will be repaired. And on the right-hand side, in the blue highlighted area, is the 56 monuments that are leaning and that are in danger of falling and would need repairs if they fell. So I've done quite a few CPC articles on gravestone preservation in the past, and I like to be very detailed with the map and location of each grave that is going to be touched, because you don't want to tell them just to 65 graves because they'll fix the wrong ones. So in the application that when I will be putting this back out to bid, they will have all of this detailed information of the location of each one of the memorials, whose the memorial is, and what needs to be done. If you look in this upper left-hand corner of F4, you'll see Rachel Linnell's memorial. It's a brownstone memorial. She died in 1826. The front of this stone is flaking off, and anyone who knows brownstones know once that it has completely delaminated, there's no getting it back. So they're really in dire need to be preserved as soon as possible. Some of the other stones that are here are just tipped over. The next stone was Captain James Taylor. It's in several pieces, and part of it's buried in underground. But as you can see from all the stones here, they're clearly in need of repair. So preserving these gravestones in East Harwich Methodist Cemetery is in the best interest of the town. We have a lot of people that visit this cemetery as it contains many of the Mayflower descendants on the ground. So people come here to our town to do genealogical research there, and it's in deplorable condition. So if anyone gets a chance, I really recommend that you really go over there and walk the ground so that you can see what kind of condition they're in. So many of the memorials are in pieces and will need to be reconstructed. The cemetery has a significant amount of historical monuments that are over 200 years in age. Preserving them will ensure the future generations can experience this historical burial ground. We did get letters from the Harwich United Methodist Church in support of this project. On the left-hand side is from Carl Young. He is their historian and has given me a lot of documentation from them. And then on the right-hand side is a letter from the parishioners who attend the church, and they've signed it around the perimeter of the letter. So the cemetery committee is hoping that you support this gravestone conservation project. It was unanimously supported by the Historic Commission meeting on November 18th. And the overall goal is to preserve and stabilize and prevent any further damage of the memorials in this historic burial grounds. As all of the past presentations that we've done for gravestones, we make all the documentation be provided to us before and after while they're doing their preservation project. So they have to take pictures of the stone before, tell us what they did to the stone, and then an after picture. And then they give that to us at the end of the project. Our last one that we have finished last year was the Mount Pleasant one. And we did receive 2 books. One was for you guys. I tried to give it to Dave, but he didn't know where he'd put it. It's very thick. And one is in my cemetery office. She also has a digital, the lady who did it, we asked her to provide a digital thumb drive with all of the images, as it is pretty in depth. So right now we did get a price quote from Gravestone Conservation Services for this project. It came in at $102,000. This will be going out to bid, and we will have to, she could bid on it if she wanted to, but I don't know if she would even have the time. But it would be going out to bid, and I believe that price is. She actually put in that she thought that 3 more of the stones would probably fall between now and the time it passed, because they're leaning so. They're at such an angle at this point that they're probably going to fall. So does anyone have any questions? I'm going to try to end this. I don't want to stop the recording. I think I hit click. There we go.
There we go. Robin, you did well. Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Donna.
Hi, Robin. Thank you. Just a couple of questions. In the application, it talks about the master plan that the Cemetery Commission has.
Yes.
Is that something that we could take a look at?
Yeah, I'll get that for you. When Paul Dome was on my commission, he started that, I think it was like 10 years ago, where he wanted all of the maintenance and stuff, and us to have a plan to go through that made sure that we took care of all the cemeteries and all the stones. So,
yeah. Okay, and it says you're in the process of developing long-term plans. When will that be ready?
So now we just finally got another third person on our commission. We've been working with two, and we hadn't met quite a few times because of quorum issues. So we're just starting to work on that now. So hopefully we'll have that done. Right now they're working on our goals for next year, and we'll be revisiting our plan, and then we'll update that. So that might be a little bit longer, but I can get you our existing plan.
Okay. Has any marker restoration been done in this location before?
It had a long time ago, and as you see some of the photographs that I've sent you, some people tried to repair some of the stones, and they went horribly wrong. You can see if you go over and look at it, some people put like concrete behind stones to try to get them to stay together. In some areas, they put some different type of adhesives that kind of leaked over, and you can't even read the inscription. All that stuff will have to be removed by the person who gets the bid on this job, and to preserve them back to the way they should be. So that stuff will have to be fixed because they were done.
So how long does the restoration, if it's done properly, how long does it last for? What's the life expectancy of the work?
So it should be between at least 30 years. So I mean, it's pretty significant time. It can be even longer depending on, but some of these stones are so fragile, and some of the stuff has already delaminated off of it. So I don't know how long they can fix them because they've already had some damage to them.
Okay, and just one last thing. I think it would be nice, you were talking about the books and the before and after, if that was somewhere like the library where people, the general public could actually look at it. And I'm not sure if the copies of it that you have that are electronic, is that available for the public to see?
I can either talk to Ginny Hewitt, or I can go over to Brooks Academy. I know that Brooks Academy doesn't have any place to store it. In several CPC articles that we did before, when we had stuff digitized, we gave it to both those locations so that so other people could view them. So I could look into that.
Yeah, I always try to remember that, we're allocating taxpayer dollars. So taxpayers, if they should be able to see, what their money is done. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All set, Donna, thank you. Joe.
Hey, Robin. Just one thing that I might have missed it in this, but once it's all approved, what's your actual timeline for this? Do you have in terms of completion?
It usually takes about 6 months. So usually if it gets approved, and then they need water. So if they have bad weather, it can go a little bit longer. It could take a whole year depending on the weather.
Okay.
But within a year, it should be completely finished.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got. Thanks, Dave.
Robert.
I don't really have any additional questions. It did come before the Historic Commission, and it was unanimously voted to support this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Kathy.
Robin, it's been a long time. How large is this cemetery? Do you know the acreage?
Yeah, it's a very small cemetery. I think it's 1.3 acres, maybe.
And who actually owns the cemetery, the land?
So the cemetery land is actually physically owned, I believe, by the church, where the town does not own the land. We have been maintaining it for over 40 years.
Okay. I mean, I'm just remembering the issues we had before.
Right.
And,
So we do have support of the church to maintain and continue to maintain this. It is a responsibility of all the municipalities if there is a cemetery within their limits under Chapter 114, Section 18, that we maintain it if it's within our town limits and it's not being taken care of. So we have maintained it for over 40 years.
Okay. And when you talk about the previously failed repairs,
Yeah.
and you were describing them, who did those repairs or who authorized those repairs?
I have no idea who did them. They were done so long ago. I mean, they're a good 30 years old. I mean, I don't know who could have, I wasn't around then. I don't know if anyone from the church even knows who did them at this point. Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
I'm muted. Thanks, Kathy. Quick question to Robin before we go any further. You said it was maintained by the commission for 40 years?
About that. The cemetery itself, yes. We mow it and we maintain the cemetery, yes.
So you've created an easement?
No, we maintain and oversee quite a few cemeteries in this town that are on the West Harwich Church Cemetery. We've maintained that as well. And we do not own that either. Half of the North Harwich Cemetery, it was owned by, they had their own association, and one half of it's owned by the town, but we maintain the whole thing.
Okay, thank you. Mary?
Nothing for me, David. I think the cemetery is well overdue for maintenance. And just have seen the presentation that Robin gave back at Historic and was in support of it at Historic. So I'll be anxious to see where we end up with this.
Okay, thank you, Mary. John?
Yeah, I have a question and a comment. My question is, hello, Robin. That's
Hi,
not my question. My question is, in your write-up and in your presentation, you use the word consolidate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what that means. I take it that it has a technical meaning in this context, and I just want to know what that is.
So we want to consolidate the actual face of where the monuments are back to into itself. If you go and look at some of the memorials, you'll see that some of it's starting to bubble off or to flake off. You want to consolidate the stone backing.
So you're fixing what you were referring to as delamination?
Yes.
I see. Okay. Thank you. So my comment is, I think in response to what Donna was saying about making the materials publicly available.
Right.
And I think it should go online. I guess you guys are surprised to hear me say that, but we should find a place. Seriously, it doesn't make any sense not to have that online. I'm not sure where the appropriate place is. I don't know whether, does the Cemetery Commission have a website?
We do have a page. It is, because it has a lot of graphical images, I don't know if, to download the whole thing. I could see if there's some way to make it searchable, maybe. But it's on
a PDF file?
It is not in a PDF. It's not currently, but I mean, we could make this one be put in a PDF file. We could.
You said you have something on a memory.
Yeah, so right now I have a book. It's probably a couple thousand pages long. And in it talks about every single stone, what was done before, during, and after. And then I have a thumb drive that has all the images of all the stones identified.
Oh, so it's not like a single file
No.
that, I see.
Mr. Ketchum, are you looking for a project?
So this book could be definitely in the library.
Well, no, I guess the simple answer to that question is no, but I would, I'd be happy to talk offline about it. I mean, it sort of, I think we should be putting all the project reports online on the CPC website in a way that's accessible randomly by the public. That's a project. And that's another topic, but I mean, if you're submitting that whole book as a progress report on a project you've done,
Yeah.
I think it should go online along with all the other reports to the CPC. That's a conversation for another day, but thank you. That was my comment.
All right.
Look, Robert, we're going to try to rope him in.
Well, we could do that as part of when they finish the project, instead of submitting it like this one was done, we could say that we want it digital. Because they have to, they're creating all the paperwork. Why couldn't they put it together?
Right.
Well, it probably starts out as digital anyway, so why not?
Kathy.
Hey, just a quick question. This cemetery, is this open to the public?
Yes.
Okay. And you talk about a couple of stones that really are completely deteriorated because they're face down or something. What do you do with a marker that all of the, etching is on? Like there's no way to determine.
Actually, when the marker is face down, when they unearth it and dig it up, they probably are going to be the best looking stones in the cemetery because they haven't been exposed to acid rain or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So those ones are going to look probably the best. A lot of the stones there's one stone that is a captain's stone and it's broken into 5 pieces. It was completely buried under the ground. So I dug it out. It's in the multiple page document that you guys received.
Right.
When they put that one back together, it's going to be beautiful. It has a beautiful weeping willow on the top of the memorial. It's going to be stunning. So I've seen the work that she has done in the Mount Pleasant Cemetery, and it was exceptional stuff that I didn't even see on the stone before. You could read all of the epitaphs on the bottom. So I think the people who, if you hire professionals to come in there and do it, I think they really do an excellent job.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome, Kath, thank you. Robin, the only other thing I have a question about is, did you discuss as a department head, you go over contingency with the town administrator? Did you come up with a percentage, and is that included in this price?
I had talked to the Gravestone Conservation Inc. when they were writing up the proposal and explaining to them that this takes a whole year to go through in the conditions of the memorials, and she put in the contingency in the original bid. So I'm confident that this price is with contingencies.
Okay, can you get back to us with the percentages on that contingency?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you. And to the rest of the board, I dropped the ball when it came to that term. I should have asked the water department head if the project that the water department's doing with Patrick had a contingency fee built into it and what that number was. I will get that information and provide the board. So moving on.
David?
Donna, go ahead.
I actually had a follow-up question from Kathy's question. I'm a little concerned about the fact that it's not on town-owned land. And I just wonder if that's something we want to run through legal or not, because, I mean, my understanding is you can do historic work on land that is not owned by the town, as long as there's a public purpose and it's open to the public. But then there has to be some type of historic restriction and a whole process by which you have to do that. And I mean, I know, like, I'm probably one of the newer members, but I think we need to do just a little bit more due diligence on this one, and unless, like, Mary knows something that I'm not aware of. But projects that I've been involved in that it's not town-owned land, there has to be a process for the historic restriction or the way that it's done. So I think we need to look into that a little bit.
Does that come through the CPC or through historic?
I believe well, I mean, I think we could start with asking the CPC Coalition for assistance, but ultimately the Mass Historic is involved, is my understanding. So I think maybe, David, we start with the CPC Coalition, but I would feel more comfortable making sure we're doing this right before we move forward on it.
Okay, well, I'm going to put that right on Robin. Make a formal request to the town administrator, the ATA, and have legal take a look at it.
Okay.
Because any information that comes from the coalition is not a legal opinion. It's an advisory opinion. And I have the documentation for that. So Dawn is requesting a legal opinion. I would suggest you go through the ATA and let council weigh in on it. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you for that. And the next one is HB2. HB2. I'm unmuted. Yes, I am. Historic restoration of the fence posts and rails at the East Harwich Methodist Cemetery. So Robin, go ahead and do it. You've got the floor.
I'm gonna switch my screen again. Hold on a minute. Oh, no, didn't do it. Hold on a minute. Back. Okay. So it's the historic restoration of the fence post and rails. It's $127,750. So what they'll have to do is the repair and replacement of the granite posts and rails. There are 24 Stony Creek granite posts that are broken or have fractured and need to be replaced. These will have to be dug out and removed. We'll have to remove the trees and shrubs, install new posts. And as you install each post, you have to tip the post to put the rails in. So this is a map again of the cemetery. And I have identified the different sections of the cemetery. In the yellow squares are the granite posts that are either completely missing or are broken. And the red lines represent the rails that are gone. So I'm going to give you a little brief description of Stony Creek granite posts. So all of these posts are called rock pitched. So they're like hand chipped, like they were originally. But a brief history of Stony Creek quarries. Their unusual pink granite of Stony Creek was first quarried in 1858 by Benjamin Green in Banford, Connecticut. There are 3 quarries that contain this particular granite. There is Stony Creek Red Granite Company, Norcross Brothers, and Guilford Beatty Quarry. Norcross Brothers actually purchased, they're from Worcester, and they purchased Stony Creek in 1887. And this is probably where we got the granite post. They had a distribution center in Falmouth at one point. So when we did the Evergreen Cemetery posts and rails, we found with a previous CPC article, which was in FY 2012, we digitized those records and they are available to the public. And I actually searched for galvanized pipe in there because there was a question whether galvanized pipe was available in 1899. And we found the original purchase and sale agreement on installing the granite posts and rails. So we used that at that CPC article. So anyways, we did get letters of support from the Harwich United Methodist Church. And this is a quote from Carl Young. He heard that I was attempting to restore the posts and metal fencing and the frames to the East Harwich Union Cemetery. So he walked the property and was surprised how deteriorated many of the sections have become. There are places where there is nothing left of the fence. Just for safety, we need to have this replaced. So on the left-hand side is his letter from Carl, who's the historian. On the right-hand side, again, is from the church parishioners. Okay. The Cemetery Commission is hoping for your support on this historic restoration of the post, fence, and rails. It was unanimously supported by the Historic Commission. And Stony Creek granite is still available, and we must use the materials for historic preservation when they can be sourced. So normally, if it wasn't available, we could use regular, the Quincy gray granite. But because the Stony Creek granite is still a quarry that still exists, if we are doing historic preservation, you have to get that particular granite. There is a need to make sure that these grounds are safe. We currently have broken granite posts and the corroded broken pipes around the entire property. And it's important for the public to have a positive experience when they're visiting this historic burial ground. And that's it for that presentation. So I'm sure we're going to have to do the same thing as Donna recommended earlier, that we get formal word from our attorneys saying that this is an okay project for historic preservation. I know that we've done historic preservation for the church and Harwich Center. There's stained glass windows before, so we will see if this falls in that category. But does anyone have any questions?
We'll start with Robert.
Yeah, when this was presented to the Historic Commission, obviously the sticker shock on this is something to consider. This is more expensive than restoring all the actual gravestones, but as explained, with the materials and everything, the cost, and the fact that we're using the original Stony Creek granite, which is again very important on any restoration. So the commission, Historic did again unanimously approve this project, and we'd like to see it go forward. I think we did come in and at the time, at the meeting, we asked priorities. I think we should ask priorities at this point on the projects.
I was going to wait till the end, Robin, after she made her presentation, and then that question to her.
Okay, we'll wait to the end. I'm done.
Okay, Joe.
I don't have anything more on this. I don't have any questions on this one.
Okay.
Did you say me? Yeah, sorry. It got a little staticky. Yeah, thank you, Robin. Again, just on my request about doing projects in places that are not town-owned land, can you just make sure when that question's asked, what the process is? So if there is a specific process that has to be followed, so it's not just can we do it or can't we do it? Because you're right. I mean, we do projects in historic buildings that aren't owned by the town, but I believe there's a pretty specific process you have to follow when you do that. So if you can just make sure that it's a two-part question so we don't have to go back, that would be really helpful. What are the condition of the gravestones and markers in this cemetery?
It's the same cemetery. It's the whole same cemetery.
Oh, it's the same cemetery. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So, all right. So that's why the prioritization. I mean, would it be realistic to do both of these projects concurrently, or
Yes.
should one be done first, or?
If I had a preference, I would want the gravestones done first. I think they're more critical. Once they're destroyed, there's no going back. So the fence can be resurrected, I think, but the gravestones cannot be.
Okay.
Little levity, interesting choice of words.
Yeah, and I mean, part of the reason why this costs so much money is because the nature of the work, you have to use prevailing wage, and that's automatically going to make the price more expensive as you're moving earth. So, okay, I'll be interested to hear the priority on all your projects as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Kathy.
There's a lot of reverb. Everybody could mute that isn't speaking. It might help. It's hard to understand.
That's not right.
Okay. Just a quick question. So what percent would you say of the entire railing system it needs to be replaced? What are we talking about? 80%?
50%.
50%. Okay.
At least, yeah.
Okay. And you're talking about how dangerous it is to walk amongst the gravestones.
Yeah,
if someone falls and hurts themselves, whose responsibility is that? Is it the liability of the church because they own the land, or do we have some liability?
I don't know that, and that would be a nice question for legal. We have been maintaining it for over 40 years, and according to the Massachusetts state law, I would be interested in finding that out myself. So maybe that's another question that I should ask an opinion from legal.
Okay.
For the moment, Mary.
Thanks, David. It's really also a question for our insurer, for the town's insurer, particularly on this one where, you know, the fence posts and railings are potential hazards. So the question is not only a legal one as to whether we can use historic funds and how we need to use the historic funds and what process we need to take. It's really a third question as to whether, if somebody trips or falls and hurts themselves, whether our MIA insurance is going to cover for injury on that property, or whether they're going to deny it because it's not town-owned property. So it's not just legal counsel, it's also the insurer that should be looped into the question.
Thank you, Mary. And if you see me laughing, one of the Board of Select persons in their younger day worked for the cemetery departments and actually fell into one of those graves.
Yeah.
Robert knows. Anyway, go ahead, Kathy. I'm sorry to distract.
Great. Last question. Does the church contribute at all to any of the maintenance?
Not in the cemetery. They only pay for the maintenance in the front of their building. They pretty much have left the maintenance of the cemetery itself to the town, and the town has always maintained it. So I've worked at in the cemetery department since 2004. And when I got the job, it has told to me that we've been maintaining for over 20 years before I even got there, so.
I mean, would it be a terrible thing to ask them to contribute to offset some costs?
I think we could ask.
Their land, I mean, you know, just a thought. I'm all set.
Thanks.
Okay, who have I missed? John?
Yeah, so I was also kind of dumbstruck by cost. And I saw, looking at the breakdown, that probably more than 2/3 is the material, it's the granite, right?
Yeah.
So my question is about your statement that you must use the original granite if it's available for a historic restoration, but I'm sorry, but according to whom? And what if you don't? And what if you just go get some Quincy granite and put it in there? Why is this? I mean, I understand the compulsion and the importance of preserving the gravestones. It's less clear to me why it's so important to have the exact right kind of granite for the fence posts.
So anytime you do any historic preservation projects, and most of the time I deal with Sarah Korjeff when we're working on historic preservation, and she's really a leading expert in the field. Anytime that there is available original stuff, you are supposed to use that when you do historic preservation. So that is just the rules. I'm following the rules that have been taught to me.
So my question is, whose rules are they? Is this a statutory requirement, or is this, what do you get in exchange for doing that? The satisfaction of doing an accurate historic preservation, or you're satisfying legal requirement, or what? What are you getting? And what if you don't have the money to buy the original pink granite? What if, what if the CPC says, okay, you can have $25,000 to fix that fence, not $125,000? Then what?
Right.
Robin, before you answer, Mary, would you like to weigh in on this?
So David, I think it's the difference between doing what would be simple maintenance versus doing historic preservation. If it's preservation, it needs to be like materials when it's available. And I think less than that, if it's available and not used, I think you're moving away from preservation and into just general maintenance, which wouldn't be allowed under historic, wouldn't be an allowable use of historic. My own initial thoughts.
So just to clarify, what you're saying, Mary, is that it would violate CPC rules to do that. We couldn't allocate $25,000 to get Quincy granite. I mean, I'm making these numbers up, right? But anyway, we couldn't allocate some sum of money that we knew would purchase some kind of granite, because in your opinion, we'd be violating the CPA?
So John, I think that would be not historic preservation. If the same materials are available, then to do the historic preservation, you need to use the like material. If the like material wasn't available, then I think you could make the argument that you're using the next best thing. But because it's available, yes, I think less than doing the actual material that's there and replacing like for like, I think then turns it into maintenance versus historic preservation. And maintenance isn't an allowable use under the historic bucket.
John, if this is any help, when the library did their makeover in the exterior of the building, the columns had to be restructured, reshaped, redesigned, redone. And I had an interesting conversation with the former town administrator about that because CPA was funding that. And my issue was, why are we watching a wood setting when plastic could make the difference? And structurally, it wouldn't have made a difference whether it was wood or plastic, but it was something about the historic nature of the building, and it had to meet certain requirements from whatever state agency oversees that, or whatever private agency oversees it, that puts a stamp on it that says that particular unit is historic. It has to be done a particular way. Maybe Bob can.
Yeah, there are definitely rules on that, and it starts at the top. The Department of Interior has very strict rules with that, but then it filters down to the state. And probably you should, Robin, contact Sarah again and ask specifically about that, because the state has their own rules for historic preservations, and it is, along what we're saying, is it does have to be like for like material to be truly for preservation.
John, does that help?
I'm just going to summarize what I think I heard, which is that, in order to do this under the banner of historic preservation, you've got to have that particular kind of granite. And if you don't do that, we can't allocate, or the opinion is, we can't allocate CPC historic funds. Do you agree with that summary of what has been said here?
I agree with that. I think it has to be, if it's available, we're supposed to use that type of material.
So can you, Robin, I understand John's inquiry and where he's going. Can you get a definitive answer, whether it's from the Department of Interior, as the library was, now that Bob has jogged my memory? And in this particular case, maybe it's the state that's involved with that opinion?
Okay.
John, does that help?
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Robin.
Okay, I don't have any questions. So is there any other questions from the board on this project? Okay, we'll go to the next one. HP3, Veterans Memorial Circle at Evergreen Cemetery, Flagpoles Project. Go ahead, Robin.
All right,
Please.
so I'm going to try to do another PowerPoint, so hold on one second. And why isn't it doing the slideshow? Hold on one second. Yeah, let me close it and go back. Hold on a second. Sorry. I think that'll work. Maybe? No. Sorry. Not sharing correctly. Let me close this. There we go. Sorry about that. So this is the Veterans Memorial Park at Evergreen Cemetery. The original amount has changed. We did have a conversation with the town administrator who wanted us to go back and review all of our pricing for all of our CPC articles. And when I did that, the price changed. So the project is an installation of flagpoles and electricity to the Veterans Memorial Circle at Evergreen Cemetery. We're going to installation of the American flag. It'll be 35 feet pole and 5 service flags. So it'll be the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. To install the flag poles and all of the flags, it's $15,058. To bring the electrical service, which will needed to provide electricity to the American flag, as well as bring power to the electrical panel inside the gazebo, it's going to be $26,148. So this is a picture of the cemetery. It's almost 20 acres. It's anyways, but this one area, if you look in the bottom lower left, that is the design by when we had the Evergreen expansion developed in 2008 by BSC Group. So the cemetery has now become an area of a lot of passive recreation, especially now during COVID. I think more and more people are going into all of the green spaces they can just to get outside. This area of East Harwich, as it continues to grow, the residents are looking for safe places where they can walk and enjoy their surroundings in areas of remembrance for our veterans. So this is the Circle of Remembrance. This is in Waltham, where I grew up. So this is a similar setup that I want to do here. So it has a center flag, and then it's flanked by the different services. So we'll be installing the American flag, will be right to the left of our gazebo entrance, and then around it we'll have it. Veterans Day services will be held at this Evergreen Memorial Circle, and in phase 2, we'll be placing a Revolutionary War and Civil War veterans memorials with benches around the circle. So that would be in phase 2. So this is a letter of support that we received from Will Remillard, who was our veteran service officer for the town and just retired. And he's also a veteran. And in his letter, he states, this array of flags will serve to honor all of our nation's veterans and to display our pride and patriotism of our community. So the Cemetery Commission is seeking support for the Veterans Memorial Circle at Evergreen. This article will be going before the Recreation Commission on December 22nd. So right now, every November 11th, we have Veterans Day ceremony at Island Pond Cemeteries. It's absolutely beautiful there. But anyone who's been to Island Pond Cemetery knows that it's a very hilly and it's very hard for navigate, especially for our older veterans. And they have sometimes have a hard time parking there and getting down to where the actual services are being. So we want to create this park so that this is a place where we can go and have events for our veterans. This is a place where they can go and attend services. Veterans will be able to park and walk safely to public events on Veterans Day. It's a day to thank our living veterans for their services to our country and to be able to acknowledge that their contributions for our nation's security are valued, not only for the ones who have died, but for those who have sacrificed for their duty of our country, and hope that all of our veterans can attend events that we'll be holding here at the Evergreen Veterans Memorial Circle. We have been looking at doing this for quite some time. The Cemetery Commission, Will Remillard was on our commission for about 7 years, and he just got off this past year. So this is one of the projects he's always wanted us to continue with. So we are hoping that the CPC will be in support of this. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to take that off the screen. Okay. I can't, yeah. Can't hear you, Dave.
Everybody's reading my lips. Is the contingency built into this? Did you get that, Robin?
No, I didn't.
Is the contingency built into this?
Well, we had gone back and we made them go through and redo the bid. So, yes.
Would you get that percentage to the board, please?
Yep.
Okay, the next question I have, the flags are relatively small. At 5 by 8?
So the flags that are going to be on the poles. Hold on a minute, let me get to that section, sorry. Yeah, so that is the size flags that they use. This Hamco flag company for that size flag pole, for the 30-foot flag pole, those are the ones that they're recommending that we use, the 5 by 8. And they install these, and they install these in many towns all around the state, so.
All right, is the cemetery commission gonna do the replacements of those flags?
Yes.
So you're going to handle the replacements?
Yes.
Okay. Again, they just seem terribly small to me. I'm not asking for a barracks or a banner flag.
Okay.
But 5 by 8s, if you're going to have it lit up at night, especially the American flag.
Oh, the American flag is going to be bigger. Those are the service flags that are 5 by 8.
Okay. I thought
for the branches. The American flag would be the regular American flag size that are at all of the cemeteries.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm all set. John?
Okay, so my question is, maybe to Robin, maybe to others on the committee, is there precedent for using historic preservation funds for this kind of memorial? I guess it's unclear to me what's historic about this. I understand the desire to do this, but I'm questioning whether we can appropriately allocate historic preservation funds.
So I had submitted this application under recreation, not under historic. So I felt that this was a recreation park. I mean, this is going to be used for many people all year round. In the middle of it's going to have an area where we can put a microphone. If we have larger burials, we can have a podium where people can speak. But a lot of people walk in the cemeteries now, and this cemetery was designed to have walking trails in it. And eventually we would like to have a walking trail that goes through the cemetery, which the cemetery commission will probably pay for out of our own funding. But the actual center of the cemetery where this Veterans Memorial Park will be, I think when we go to phase 2 and we actually erect the World War the Civil War and Revolutionary War memorials, that would go to historic. Those have the list of all of the members of the people of this town who, when they registered to go into the Revolutionary War, were Harwich residents, or the Civil War, who were Harwich residents. We have been compiling that list, but that is not, I'm not ready for that yet. So right now we're only starting to just create this as a park.
John, you all set?
You're muted.
For the moment, I don't feel like I have an answer yet, but maybe other people have something more to say about it.
Okay. Mary.
Thanks, David. So Robin, I am supportive of the project in general, but I don't think that this portion is historic funds either. So maybe we just need to code it differently on our project list as opposed to being an for historic, maybe it's something else for open space and recreation. So I think it's a great project, and I certainly can understand the need for it. I just don't think it's historic funds.
Correct.
Thank you, Mary. Kathy?
I guess my biggest concern is this $13,000 increase in trenching.
So I guess when they originally went out to price it, because it's right next to our water irrigation line, they were going to be able to just dig it, but they have to be careful because they could dig up the water line. So when we had them relook at all of the pricing and they went back out to bid it, the actual trenching of it is 1,200 feet from the entrance of 39 all the way to the circle. That's where the price went up, and it was from the trenching.
That's a lot.
I know. I was shocked.
I'm good.
Thank you, Kathy. Robert?
Same that's come up is about being historic. Don't believe it should be historic on this phase of it. The next phase, yes, I think that might be more considered for historic. We lost David.
Sorry, I just got a COVID alert from the state of Massachusetts. I'm sure you're all going to be receiving one. At least I hope you all are. Misery loves company. Anyway, you're all set, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Joe?
Okay, so Kathy answered my question. The additional money is totally for trenching, right? And I might have missed this, but do you have an updated itemized bill of all this stuff that shows the $43,000?
Yes.
Was that sent out by you, Jan? Separately? I missed that. I don't see that in my thing. You're on mute.
You're muted, Jan.
You're muted.
Yes, it was sent out on Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and it's the quoted itemized page is the only one you really need to copy because that's the change. So okay. I'll just resend it to you.
No,
yes?
Gee, I might have missed it. I was in charge of Thanksgiving. Okay. So, the other question I had was, I should know this, but the 24,000 for the 120 volt photo cell, what is that? What's the photo cell? I'm sure I should know this, but.
It is that's in the electric, I think that's the, that is to light the flag, I believe.
I'm going to take a guess here, if you don't mind. It's to detect when the sun sets and turn the lights on.
Oh, that costs 24,000, Robin? Yeah.
I'm not an electrician.
That isn't. No, I don't think that's what it is. I looked at that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I have old pages here, so I might have missed that. But
I think it's $24.14.
I see $24, and then it says, $24,014. Okay. That's right. I'll lay it down. The only other thing, I'm totally satisfied with, but as a Army veteran, can you just make sure my flag is next to the American flag? That's all I have.
Okay, Donna.
Okay, a couple of questions. So who's going to be responsible for putting the flags up and down when that's required? Who will be doing that? Because it's actually very serious. I get all the time, every day. I get the half staffs. I get everything that needs to be done. It's something that is very important and respectful to having flags. That's so.
So we already have 10 flags in the cemeteries, and we have a cemetery maintenance department, and every time the flags need to go to half staff, they take care of that.
Okay.
So there'll just be one more on their list.
Okay. Okay. So who put together what type of lighting would be best to have here? I mean, was there any consideration to like using solar, or like who did the design for how these lights should be? Because it is a lot of money to provide the lighting, and I'm just wondering.
It's because we could have just done solar, but we wanted to bring power to the gazebo because it already had an electrical service inside there. And a lot of the times at the events that we had at Island Pond, when we had a speaker there and they had to speak, the whole crowd couldn't hear them. This cemetery is quite large, and if we have a large event there, we're going to want to plug in a microphone so that people can be heard. So it's really the electrical service that is going to be going to both to light the flag, but to also give power for events that we will be having.
Okay, I don't think that was clear, and I'm a little concerned about where we're going with this. I mean, I don't know that CPC funds can be used to bring power to an existing location. I'm just kind of thinking this through of, you know, what category is it going to go into? And I'm not sure that creating a park that you can justify bringing electric service there for, I mean, you're proposing a certain thing, which I'm in favor of doing something to honor veterans. I actually think we should have, you know, a park in a central location that veterans can use. I'm not sure a cemetery is the right place for it, but you're talking about bringing electric service for a different reason than lighting the flags, I guess. And I'm just, I don't know about that.
We did, when I did speak to Harmon Electric, he asked me that question, if we wanted to do just solar for the flag, and I could go back to him and ask him to just give me a price just to light the flag, if you would like. I'm sorry, Bob, you want to speak?
I do.
Okay.
Being I think I am a qualified off-grid solar person. Solar is not necessarily the best solution because it's an ongoing cost. The batteries die, the light output tends to be very poor, and you know, over the next 25 years, you're going to spend this money on a solar solution probably. It'd be nice to take a look at that solution and see what they say. But are you only lighting the American flag, or you would light all the flags, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'm for this application, I would not be in favor of solar myself, and because I live with it every day of what goes wrong.
John.
Yeah, I was just going to respond to Donna's comment about bringing power in there, just to note that we've already approved projects to bring power or modify power access to Brooks Park, to White House Field for lighting, in fact. So it's not clear to me what the difference is here exactly. It would be a recreation purpose, part of which is lighting and part of which is providing other services in the gazebo. So I'm not clear that that's not a distinction that would bother me, I guess I would say.
Thanks, John.
Donna, are you all set?
No, I have two more questions. The cost of maintenance, Robin, that will be in the cemetery commission's budget.
Yes.
Okay. And I know Dave doesn't like me asking this question, but I see this quote and I want to make sure prevailing wage again was used because they've got an electrician's helper labor on here for $25 an hour. And I can tell you the prevailing wage is way over that amount. So I just, again, for making sure we have the proper pricing, that would be a question I would have.
I will verify that. But you're saying it's incorrect, so we'll have to.
I'm not saying it's incorrect. I'm saying that's a really low number for what I've seen on a prevailing wage schedule. And I always think that when you have a quote and it's a municipal quote, you need to have them put right on it, acknowledging the fact that they understand that this is a prevailing wage job, which means they have to be given the prevailing wage to start with. Okay. That's the job, that's the responsibility of the municipality. And I'm going to stop because Dave's.
Donna, you were absent. I looked it up. I understand. I got an opinion. You were absolutely right. And it is in a public forum. So here you go. Anyway, are there any more questions from the board members about this particular project? Okay, now, hearing none, what I would ask Robin, what I would ask you to do is to prioritize your projects and think about it. You're not an answer tonight.
I already have my priority, I can tell you.
Okay, all right, you've got the floor.
Okay, so first I would like the memorials done. I think that they're in critical need of repair. The second thing I would like is the Veterans Memorial Circle. I really feel that we owe it to have a place where we can have Veterans Day services that's everyone can attend, and not having all the veterans be able to go to Island Pond because they can't access it, I think is not appropriate. So that, and then my third thing would be the fence project. So that's my priority. And I spoke to my board and that's their priority as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Okay, are there any other questions from any of the board members? Joe.
Forgot to ask, I'm sorry. I should know this, but I've seen that gazebo, but what street, where is Evergreen Cemetery? I'm sure I've passed it. 20 acres, right?
It's, okay, so it's on two different entrances. So one entrance comes off of 39 and the other one's on 137, and they connect directly through. So you can go through from one side out the other side.
Yeah, okay, I know where it is now. Yeah.
Has two big walls at the entrance.
And then I just finished and say I'm with Donna on this. I'm a little confused as to why this is in your lane. Does it fall in your view to do something like this, a memorial flags for veterans?
Well, on the cemetery.
Should it be somewhere else? How come the veterans guy doesn't come and ask for the money?
So the majority of veterans memorial parks are in cemeteries.
Okay.
Some towns designate them and put in their public areas, like at Brooks Park or something like that.
Yeah.
But the majority of them are actually in cemeteries.
I grew up in the South Shore, and I helped with the city of Quincy's one down in Marina Bay, and it's nowhere near a cemetery. I grew up in Braintree. It's also in a special place in downtown. I mean, this is a smaller town, so maybe that's why it is. I don't want to slow you down, but so you're saying it is in your purview, and that's normally something that you guys do in the cemetery committee.
Right. So I'm a member of the New England Cemetery Association, and when we go to our board meetings and stuff like that, they always show different memorials that they've done in different areas, the people who do presentations. And I've seen quite a few that are so well done in the cemeteries. And so.
All right, I'm good. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome, Joe. Anybody else? Anybody else from the board? Donna?
Just, Robin, do you have any idea how much phase 2 might be? And I'm not going to hold you to the number.
I don't really know right now. What I'm doing is trying to compile what really costs the most amount of money is the lettering on the memorials. And when I first started doing the Revolutionary War Veteran Memorial, I didn't realize at the time when I started doing it that Brewster was Harwich. So then, because Brewster didn't become a town until 1803, so all of the veterans that are listed as Harwich veterans, so I contacted DAR, and DAR told me that I would have to include them in our Harwich because their enlistment town was Harwich. So I'm recompiling all of them, and it's going to be how much it costs to engrave each letter. But it's going to be at first I thought I had 39 veterans originally, which is what I had indexed in the cemeteries. In the first 2 weeks, I found 39 more, and I'm only on the letter D. So I think it's going to be a significant amount of people. I didn't even realize that many people lived here at that time, but there's a book that has been published on the Revolutionary War veterans of Massachusetts, and it's a couple thousand pages long. In it, it says when they enlisted, how old they were, what, where they served, all the way through. It's a paragraph on each one, and that I'm compiling all of that information now. I will know probably in the next 3 or 4 months how many names I have, and then I could get a rough estimate if you'd like.
Yeah, I guess it would be good to know just ultimately what the long-term costs are, but also like if we are going to invest in creating this park, I also want to make sure like, we're doing more than just, an event on Veterans Day, that this is something that the veterans are really truly encouraged to use all the time. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it, I would just really stress it will be important to work with veteran services, to make sure that if this is approved, that this park is being used by veterans and by the public as well.
Right. I am currently working with Shawnee Carroll. She is our veterans agent now. And Will is still giving me a lot of input as he is very involved and has always wanted this memorial done. So I am getting veterans input for this project.
And Rob, as a recommendation, as you do your due diligence and as the application develops, I would include the town of Brewster CPC on that application.
For next year?
Anything else from the board members? Well, thank you very much. We're all set, and we'll be in touch, Rob.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next, under old business, follow-up from Bob on the brackets. Article 30, anything, sir?
Yes, the brackets have been all cut out and being painted and will be ready for install. I don't have a firm date on install, but it is definitely moving forward.
Well done. Any questions for Bob? Okay, moving on. Websites, it's rather late to get in the website update, but I'm sure there's going to be some questions for Mr. Ketchum. But we can do that at a later date. Next meeting agenda points. Does the board have anything for the chair that they want on the agenda? Jan, you muted.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I have a question because I get a little indecisive. When we get these revised applications and I send them out, John already put the application revision that we got on the cemetery last Tuesday when we got it. Tonight we got a revised application on the hydration. Should it just be like our plan? Anytime we get a revision, John will receive it, take down the old, put up the new? We have a decision on that?
John, do you want to?
It's perfectly straightforward for me to just upload the new one and switch the links around. The old ones are still on the website. They're just not, they're not public facing. So, but I can, I mean, it's 5 minutes for me to do that. So it's not a problem for me.
Okay, thank you, sir. The thing is, Jen, I still want hard copies.
So I'm going to ask Patrick to give me hard copies, and I'm going to ask Robin to give me hard copies.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
Robert.
Would there be a situation where we would not accept a application update for any reason, procedural problems or too late or something, where we wouldn't want to put it up immediately on the website?
That's why I'm asking y'all.
Well, you heard what the well, I'm trying not to open a Pandora's box. The chair is allowed 2 applications to be modified. That's as far as I've gone to date. These were applications that were that came in on time. They were really modified. They were tweaked. However you want to, whatever context you want to put it in. I don't see a problem with that unless the board does.
So David, I just want to say that's been our practice for the 4 years I've been on the board. We have allowed follow-ups and tweaking and revisions with better numbers or follow-ups that have happened because of good questions that have come out of the CPC. So I don't see a problem with it. I do think we should keep all versions of the application available, but note them that, this is the original application. It's been revised, with a hyperlink to the revised application. I don't think the original one should disappear. And then, of course, it's always up to each of us as individual board members whether we want to vote on kind of the new numbers or the old numbers. That's all going to come out in the wash when we start doing our voting in January. But I don't think you allowing any revisions on 2 is anything outside the norm from what I've experienced in the past 4 years. So I just want to throw that out there for the universe.
Thank you, Mary. John, does that help? Is there a way to put a link on?
I can just add it to the, I can definitely put both, or however many versions there are, I can put them all up and label them appropriately as original and original one or whatever. I can do that. I did not do that with the original update, the cemetery update, but I can certainly make that happen and do that with the hydration station thing as well.
They also don't have a date on them. So we have a date that we say on the application that the deadline was the date that they were required to submit the application on. But both of these applications that we've just received, the revised ones, I know their dates. They aren't dated with, it's like new revised date, version 2 or something, or 12.3. So that's something that you'll have to put on there.
I can put a revision date. I mean, there are not dates on any of the original copies on the links for any of the original.
Right,
proposals.
because it says, actually, the applications usually, like if you see on the application, it does say the date they were signed. The blokes would write in that last page when they sign it.
Okay, let's, I don't want to get caught in the weeds in this. John?
Okay.
Can I make this
New
recommendation for
applications don't have
you?
any
Just put the
dates.
date that we're discussing this. Just put the date we're discussing this on the link. And that's today.
Oh, so for both of those things, you're asking me to add to the link revised on today's date.
Today's date, yeah.
Okay, sure. I can do that.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah, the thing, when we got the ones just tonight on the station, it just says a revised application. And I spent a while trying to look at both on what changed. And I only got through the first 5 or 6 pages. I don't know if anything in the back got changed. Is it possible to ask on the revision, have just a summary of what got changed so we can then find them easily or highlight them or something?
Thought of the future?
Okay.
Absolutely. Donna?
I agree with Mary. We keep all of the versions, but I'm going to say it again. I do not think it's acceptable to receive a revision an hour before our meeting is about to take place. And I know, Dave, it's your purview as the chair, but it was very difficult to go through. I did not have time to look through the revision. And I just think, we are here, we're trying to work with the applicants, but there has to be some rules, and sending a revised application an hour before a meeting is to take place is just, I don't think that it's okay.
Fair enough. Anything else from the board? Okay. Hearing nothing, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
John Ketchum, aye.
Robert?
Bob Doan, aye.
Donna?
Bonnie Hellenick, aye.
Joe?
Joe Pearl, aye.
Kathy?
Catherine Green, aye.
Mary?
Mary Maslowski, aye.
And David Nixon, aye. Good night, folks. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good night, David.
Good night.
This conference is no longer being recorded.